Zapp Brannigan, the self-proclaimed space hero and master of seduction who somehow manages to turn every romance into a complete disaster. These are Zapp's most disastrous relationships. Love's Labours Lost in Space, Season 1, Episode 4. Let's begin with the one that started it all, the episode that defined Zapp's entire love life and every failure that followed. Some people fall for the wrong person once. Leela fell for Zapp Brannigan, and the galaxy has never let her forget it. It all begins with Leela doing what she does best, being independent and completely unlucky in love. After another terrible date, with a guy who seemed perfect until he revealed a disgusting lizard tongue, her friends Amy and Bender drag her to the Hip Joint, a trendy 31st century nightclub filled with potential matches. Everyone else finds a date, but Leela's standards are too high. She turns down every guy in sight and leaves alone again. Even in the future, dating can still be miserable. The next day, Professor Farnsworth gives the Planet Express crew a new mission. They have to travel to Vergon 6, a planet mined hollow for its dark matter fuel. The mining has made the planet unstable and ready to collapse, leaving all the native animals facing extinction. Farnsworth sends Leela, Fry, and Bender to rescue 2 of each species, a literal Noah's Ark in space. It's supposed to be a simple charity job, but of course, nothing involving Fry and Bender ever goes as planned. When the crew reaches Vergon 6, they find the planet locked behind a security blockade, commanded by none other than the legendary starship Nimbus. Leela has heard stories about Zapp Brannigan.
They say Zapp Brannigan single-handedly saved the Octillion system from a horde of rampaging killbots.
She's thrilled to finally meet him, and then it happens. The first encounter between Leela and Zapp Brannigan. Leela greets him politely, saying,
"I'm just so, really thrilled to meet you."
Zapp immediately takes advantage of the situation. He grabs her hand, flashes his smug smile, and says,
"I doubt I've seen more than 3 or 4 captains sexier than you, and only one who was deadlier."
He's confident, arrogant, and completely unaware of how ridiculous he sounds. Dressed in his tiny red uniform and flexing his non-existent muscles, Zapp brags about his medals and glory missions as if he's reading his own fan mail. That evening, he invites Leela and her crew to dine with him aboard the Nimbus. Over dinner, Leela brings up the mission.
"We're hoping to save the animals of Vergon 6 from extinction, and if you could just—"
Vergon 6!
At first, Zapp was willing to help, but the moment he hears the planet's name, he changes his tune. He refuses, saying,
"The Democratic Order of Planets prohibits interfering with undeveloped worlds."
Even though it was the DOOP itself that mined the planet dry of dark matter in the first place. Leela protests, but Zapp won't listen. When she decides to defy his orders and continue the mission anyway, Zapp arrests the entire Planet Express crew. They're thrown into the Nimbus brig, guilty only of trying to save an ecosystem. That night, Zapp summons Leela to his private quarters, the infamous Lovenasium. In his mind, the best way to handle a female adversary is to seduce her. Classic Zapp logic. He flexes, he poses, and he calls himself the Zapper. Leela rejects every word.
"You'd rather sit in prison than spend one evening with the Zapper?"
Much rather.
But then, in a rare twist, Zapp shows a moment of vulnerability. He breaks down crying, saying he's lonely, misunderstood, and desperate for someone who understands the burden of command. Leela, who knows how isolating leadership can be, starts to feel pity. One thing leads to another, and in the most regrettable decision of her life, Leela sleeps with Zapp Brannigan. The next morning is pure regret. Leela wakes up in his bed. Her scream says it all. Shock, guilt, and the cold realization that she's just made history's worst romantic decision. She quietly tries to sneak out, but Zapp wakes up, grins, and says,
"Good morning, lover.
Listen, Zapp."
Now you're officially my woman."
Leela fires back that it was a mistake. Zapp smirks and calls it a sexy mistake. She glares him and corrects him, a regular mistake. Zapp, on the other hand, is beaming. To him, this wasn't a blunder. It was a triumph. He releases the crew and lets Leela continue her mission, smugly convinced that she'll come crawling back to him.
"I'm going down to Vergon 6 to save those animals, whether you like it or not."
Zapp chuckles, saying he's sure she'll fail and come running back for a little more sweet candy. The Planet Express team lands on Vergon 6, collects all the endangered animals, and discovers a strange 3-eyed creature that Leela decides to rescue too. She names it Nibbler. Everything goes smoothly until the planet begins collapsing, and the ship runs out of fuel. Fry suggests calling Zapp for help, but Leela refuses. She can't bring herself to speak to him again. Eventually, for her crew's safety, she gives in and calls the Nimbus. Zapp answers with his usual sleaze, saying he'll help, but only if Leela asks sexfully.
Can't you ask a little more sexfully?
He makes her plead in a flirtatious tone before he reveals his real condition. He'll only rescue them if she abandons Nibbler. Leela refuses. No matter how bad the situation gets, she won't sacrifice a helpless creature just to save herself. As the planet crumbles around them, it seems like the end, until Nibbler suddenly excretes a small pellet of dark matter, refueling the ship and saving everyone. The crew escapes as Vergon 6 implodes, and Leela returns home with Nibbler safely by her side. But for Zapp, this becomes his most humiliating relationship ever. He thought he could charm Leela, use her, and claim victory. Instead, he exposed his arrogance, his manipulative nature, and his complete lack of respect. What he called a conquest, Leela called a mistake, and for the rest of his life, Zapp treats that one night as proof of his irresistible power, while Leela treats it as a permanent scar on her dating history. In the end, Zapp didn't lose a woman. He earned the title of Futurama's biggest romantic disaster. Zapp Dingbat, Season 7, Episode 5. If Leela was a mistake, his next relationship turns that mistake into a full-blown intergalactic scandal. Some relationships are bad, some are disastrous, and then there's Zapp Brannigan dating Leela's mother. It all starts with a happy occasion, the 40th wedding anniversary of Leela's parents, Morris and Munda. The sewer mutants are celebrating, but beneath all the cheering, things between Munda and Morris aren't as perfect as they seem. Munda starts venting about her life, how she gave up her dream of studying alien languages and exploring space to stay with Morris underground. Years of resentment finally boil over, and they do the unthinkable. They decide to get a divorce.
Divorce is final.
Now newly single, Munda moves in with Leela and starts her new independent life. But Munda doesn't just want independence. She wants the life she always dreamed of before she chose the sewers over the stars. So when Leela takes her mom out to a fancy space bar to cheer her up, fate, or maybe bad luck, throws Zapp Brannigan straight into the mix. Zapp, being Zapp, is at the bar on official business, trying to negotiate with a shark-like alien race called the Carcharons. But since he doesn't understand a single word of their language, he accidentally blurts out something wildly offensive. Within seconds, the aliens are ready to start an interplanetary war, until Munda steps in to save the day. With her degree in exolinguistics, Munda steps in and translates the Carcharons' language perfectly, saving Zapp's career and probably the entire bar from being vaporized. Zapp, of course, is instantly mesmerized, not because he's impressed by her intelligence, but because he's found a new woman to chase. Within moments, the charm offensive begins, and before you know it, Zapp and Munda are passionately kissing. Things move fast, way too fast. Soon, Zapp and Munda are officially dating, and Leela's reaction is just pure horror. When Zapp drops Munda back at Leela's place, Leela's on edge, worried that her mother is being manipulated by the same creep who once hit on her. But Munda sees things very differently. She insists that Zapp is charming, polite, and, to Leela's disbelief, a real gentleman. Leela finally blurts out that she and Zapp once slept together, hoping to open her mother's eyes. Munda doesn't flinch. She calmly says she already knows.
I once slept with him, a few times.
I know. He showed me the commemorative painting.
Later, Zapp hires Munda as his personal translator, ensuring they'll spend more hours together on the Nimbus. Their meetings start to look more like romantic dates, flirting, giggling, and even sneaking footsie-footsie under the conference table while communicating with alien diplomats. It's ridiculous, it's awkward. After 7 long days away, Munda finally returns home, glowing with happiness, while Leela is practically boiling. She's not upset, she's jealous.
You're too old to be happy.
I'm not too old to enjoy hot sex with Zapp.
To make things worse, she invites Zapp over for dinner, supposedly to talk things through. But when he arrives, Leela is waiting for him wearing a nightie, spinning around a pole. It's both hysterical and horrifying, a desperate attempt to prove a point that no one asked for.
I love Munda. I love everything about her. Her laugh, her maturity.
Munda melts at the compliment, completely missing the irony that it came from the least mature man in the universe. Right there in front of Leela, Zapp drops down to one knee and proposes. Then they both went inside the motel room. Leela's jaw hits the floor. She warns her mother that if she goes through with the marriage, she'll shove her straight into a filthy nursing home. Leela's anger reaches a boiling point. But Fry steps in with some rare words of wisdom.
What if Zapp really does make Munda happy? What if they're meant to be together?
Zapp then throws an enormous wedding ceremony aboard his ship, the Nimbus. Munda couldn't be happier. She's thrilled that Leela has shown up to support her, and for a moment, it actually seems like Zapp might pull off a normal relationship. But of course, this is Zapp Brannigan. Nothing he touches ever ends well. Midway through the ceremony, the Karkarans arrive, and Zapp suddenly remembers, oh, right, today was supposed to be the peace treaty signing. He rushes off with Munda to handle it, handing her the document to translate. One look at the paper and Munda realizes it's not a peace treaty at all. It's a declaration of war. Zapp's grand plan was to trick the aliens into signing it so he could heroically attack them later and claim self-defense. Munda is furious. She may come from the sewers, but she's not that low. Zapp tries to pull rank, reminding her that he's her captain and soon-to-be husband. But Munda's done playing along. She rips off her engagement ring and exposes his deception to the Karkarans. Enraged, they declare war right there and then. Just when things spiral out of control, Morris, Munda's ex-husband, appears on the ship. He's secretly stowed away, determined to protect her no matter what. Munda advises Zapp to talk to the Karkarans, and for the first time, he listens. The battle cools down, peace is restored, and in the middle of it all, Munda realizes who truly loves her. She goes back to Morris, leaving Zapp humiliated and single once again. But Zapp can't help being Zapp. He tries one last sleazy move, asking Morris if he can kiss his bride before they leave. Morris's answer, a solid punch straight to Zapp's gut. And that's how it ends. Zapp left alone, bruised and humiliated. This relationship stands out as one of Zapp's worst ever. Not just because it ends in disaster, but because of what it says about him. He dated his former crush's mother. He lied to her, used her for diplomacy, and ruined what could have been her moment of happiness. The Beast with a Billion Backs movie. And finally, when the universe itself starts falling apart, so does Zapp's judgment, this time with Amy Wong. Zapp Brannigan has never been the type to miss an opportunity, especially when it involves women, glory, or both. But in The Beast with a Billion Backs, his ego finally meets its match. What starts as a tragedy in space ends as one of Zapp's most humiliating and destructive relationships ever, leaving everyone, including him, worse off. The story opens a month after a strange rip tears through the sky, a glowing hole between universes that no one understands. While scientists panic, life in the 31st century rolls on. Amy and Kif, Zapp's loyal lieutenant, are finally getting married. Zapp shows up to the wedding with his usual swagger and overconfidence, completely unaware that this happy occasion is about to take a wildly disastrous turn for him. Then comes the mission. Professor Farnsworth wants to explore the space anomaly, but as usual, the bureaucracy hands control to the military, and that means Zapp Brannigan. It's the perfect setup for disaster. Zapp leads an attack against the anomaly with his usual bold strategy. Charge first, think later. The plan collapses instantly. While Kif was busy repairing the missile, Zapp carelessly hits the fire button, and in a flash of reckless bravado, loyal, gentle Kif was caught in the blast and killed in the chaos. To everyone else, it's a tragedy. To Zapp, it's just another day on the job. He casually hands Amy a photo of Kif's lifeless body, treating the devastating loss as if it were routine military paperwork. Just then, the anomaly's attacks grow wilder, and chaos breaks out as everyone scrambles for safety. In the confusion, Amy, Leela, and Zapp search for shelter until Amy spots an old abandoned cabin. Later that night, while Leela sleeps inside, Amy sits alone outside the cabin, crying as she remembers Kif. That's when Zapp appears, pretending to share her pain. He sighs dramatically and says,
"More than you as his mere wife could ever understand. He was my 4th lieutenant, for God's sake."
Then with fake sincerity, he adds that he can still feel Kif's presence, as if he's here with us right now. That was all to make Amy more emotional and to pretend that he cares. The next morning, Leela steps out to fetch some fresh soup and heads towards Amy and Zapp's room. She knocks on the door, only to freeze in shock. Inside, Zapp and Amy are asleep together, completely naked under the sheets. Before anyone can even react, glowing tentacles from the anomaly burst through the cabin walls, wrapping around them. The chaos outside had followed them inside, and now their biggest mistake was caught right in the middle of it. When Yivo, the enormous tentacled being from beyond the rift, realizes the destruction caused by its own attack, it tries to make things right. With a wave of its godlike power, Yivo revives Kif, returning him to life before disappearing back into the rift. Kif, full of hope and love, rushes to find Amy, only to discover the unbearable truth. His wife, the person he trusted most, has slept with the very man responsible for his death. Kif's heart shatters. Amy can barely look at him, and Zapp, always desperate to diffuse guilt with arrogance, tries to make light of it. For Zapp, this becomes one of his worst relationships ever. Not because it ended in disaster, but because it exposed the hollowness behind his confidence. He didn't win love or respect. He manipulated grief and turned comfort into betrayal. His so-called charm didn't make him the hero. It made him the villain in someone else's story. So there you have it. Zapp Brannigan's long, painful, and absolutely ridiculous history of romantic disasters. From breaking Leela's heart to nearly marrying her mother, and finally destroying Amy's marriage, every relationship he touches turns to pure chaos. Through every mission, every so-called romantic victory, and every bad decision, Zapp proves that confidence without self-awareness is a weapon of mass destruction. He may think he's the galaxy's greatest lover, but in truth, he's its biggest walking embarrassment. Which of Zapp's relationships do you think was his worst? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching the Captain of Cringe crash and burn through love after love, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the wildest relationships in Futurama.